Today, my guest is former WWE developmental talent, NXT superstar. You may remember him as Sylvester LaFleur, Mr. Tom LaRufa. Tom, how are you, sir?
Hey Brian, what's up, brother? I'm very good, and I'm sure a lot, like a ton of people remember me.
The- Surprisingly, not you were featured on NXT a lot, but there's a lot of there's like what I do is specifically developmental. So there's a lot of
Yeah,
people who really like are into this and want to see, how your time there was and life after and everything. It's been hard because a lot of those people are like, "Oh, that's not my life anymore. I don't. What the hell do
yeah,
you want?"
yeah. I get it. The thing is, like you said, well, I was gonna say whenever I do a podcast, especially recently, the thing is that I always like to like set it up by explaining where I come from and what I've done in my career because like you mentioned, I was Sylvester Lefort in NXT, but man, that was like almost 10 years ago.
Mhm,
So it's like unless people were already watching NXT intently at that time, most people are gonna be like, who the heck is that guy, right?
mhm, mhm.
So, but yeah, like I like your the type of like the subject of your podcast again talking about developmental stuff because that's actually something that's very important in wrestling and
Mhm,
not enough people talk about it because we focus on the main like the main roster stuff but the
mhm.
developmental stuff it's like where it all starts basically.
I agree, sir. And like a lot of people, when they think of developmental, they only talk about Orton, Batista, Lesnar, and
Yeah,
there's so many
exactly.
more. There's hundreds of other people who were
Hmm.
signed for a reason and deserve to be talked
Yeah,
about.
exactly. And the thing is especially nowadays like bro so okay, so let's start with who I am and where I come from for whoever like doesn't like for whoever the name Tom LaRufa or
Hmm.
Sylvester Lefort or even Basil Baraka in TNA Impact at that time doesn't ring a bell. So my name is Tom LaRufa. I'm French. I was born and grew up in Nice on the French Riviera. I had my first wrestling match in November 2006 after training for 3 months with Lance Storm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I got signed to WWE NXT. Well, first it was FCW in Tampa in July. Well, I had my tryout in November 2011 in the UK on SmackDown, Raw and SmackDown. But Raw we didn't do much, and then I
Hmm.
had a match against Big Show on SmackDown, a 3-on-1 handicap match, which basically allowed me to get the job because they really liked my style, my look, and they were looking for French people at the time. And so they offered me a contract a few months after that. But by the time we did all the paperwork and the visa stuff, I moved to Tampa. So first in July 2012. And yeah, my NXT WWE adventure lasted until February 2016. So man, I was there for the opening of the PC. I saw most of all the top names make their first few steps in a WWE ring or cut their first promo in front of Dusty Rhodes. And I got a ton of story, man. But then anyway, when WWE NXT stopped for me, well, when I got released or fired, I then signed with TNA Impact Wrestling at the time, and I worked for them for like a year until they got sold to Anthem, and Anthem like cut short all the
Hmm.
budgets, and it wasn't like a viable solution for me to keep working for them. And yeah, man, again, been doing this for 18 years now. I took my first few bumps actually almost 20 years ago now. Bro, I've wrestled all over the world, like in over, I lost count of all the countries. And man, I still doing it, still loving it. And yeah, there you go. And recently, actually, I when they had the two shows in France, in Lyon, Backlash and the day before SmackDown, I was there as an extra, and Randy Orton threw me not through the table, the French announcer's table, but made me land on them with a belly to back suplex. So that was also like I was gonna say a great achievement in my career to be physically a part of the first ever WWE TV tapings in France, in my home country, which again was huge, like
Hmm.
for wrestling in France. Because man, when I started like wrestling or even just being a fan in 1998, there was no way you could ever hope to have a like a that's it like a WWE, well, even more like a WWE live event, a WWE TV taping or a WWE PLE pay per view, whatever in France. That was like unthinkable back in my days.
I agree because that like back in those days, it was you've got the one British guy, the one French guy. Like they just, it was just they. I feel like they viewed everybody as like, oh, we've got this number, this number, this number, and then
Yeah.
we'll move on.
Well, man, brother, at the end of the day, it makes sense to me
Mm-hmm.
because again, like what most people, I was gonna say, don't realize. Yeah, unless you have a foot in the industry or you're really ready to take into consideration everything that happens in the world of professional wrestling. It's not so much sports entertainment now. So when you take everything into consideration, it's a business. It's not something that you do to like out of charity. It's not something that you do just for passion. It's something that you do to make money. So if you want to make money internationally, well, basically the way I put it is that a wrestler is a product. It's a brand. So basically, like again, if you want to make money in specific markets, well, not only do you need people that speak that language, but I think it's even better if you have guys that are from actually that market.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I'm not saying that's the main reason I got signed in 2012, but it definitely I would say was about 50% of it. They
Mm-hmm.
were looking for French people. William Regal one day told me like because I developed when I was there a good relationship with him because he was there at my tryout anyway, and he pushed for me being signed. So I asked him basically, well, not why was I signed, but just how the tryout went because we were a lot of people in Liverpool in November 2011, and yeah, and he said, well, at that time they were looking for French people, so that was it. So that was I was 50% of the reason, and then the other 50% was again, well, being good,
Mm-hmm.
like I mean, being good both in the ring, but especially on the microphone because I wasn't huge and I'm not huge, like I'm not even 6 feet tall, so it's not like I'm 6'4", 250 pounds or something like that. Which even into WWE, like also something people need to realize is that if you're 6'3", 6'4", or let's say 250 in pounds, because in France we think in meters and kilos, you're still medium size for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not even six and under 200 pounds or around 200 pounds, you're a small guy. And yeah, that was another thing that was like not hard to grasp in developmental, but basically hard to overcome when I was there. Simply because at that time there wasn't like the cruiserweight or the 205 live. It was just still a big man
Mm-hmm.
business.
So let's talk about how you got into professional wrestling. Why did you choose Lance Storm, and how did
Okay,
that come
bro,
about?
that's a very good question, man. So again, in France, where I'm from in Nice, there was nothing about pro wrestling. There was so I did a ton of amateur wrestling before to get in shape, and it's a great thing to do amateur wrestling because it gives you the instinct of being in the match and trying to pin your shoulders opponent to the mat. Because when you develop naturally that instinct, your career in pro wrestling is going to be so much better. Because
Mm-hmm.
also one of the problems is that some people have never been in real fights or in real competition where you either try to knock the guy out or try to pin him on the mat, and you can tell that there's something missing in their act. But anyway, so I did a ton of amateur wrestling, and then I quickly realized that number one, if I was really going to learn pro wrestling, which is when I was a teenager, started to be the only thing I really wanted to do. Watching all the wrestling on the no, not on the computer, on TV at first, on a VHS. So I realized that I would have to leave Nice no matter what, like
Mm-hmm.
again my hometown. So there was like at that time again 2004, 2005, there were one or two schools in France, and again it was very rare at that time. Again, 20 years ago, wrestling wasn't as big and as uh, democratized as
Mm-hmm.
now. Now you can buy a wrestling ring online and you open your own school. So it's both good and bad because it's very accessible for many people. Like now around me in Nice, there's like 4 wrestling schools in a 3-hour radius, but then some schools are open and you just wonder why. Besides, they just want to make money. But anyway, I was gonna have to in 2006 when I was ready to launch myself into pro wrestling after getting in great shape, and I was 22 years old. I had a university or however you call it in America diploma in law, and so I was like, okay, now I can go and try it because then if it doesn't work out, I can
Hmm.
still fall back on my feet. So I was looking for basically the best place to learn from the get go. Like ever since I was 18 years old, I really wanted to go to the dungeon in Calgary because Bret Hart was one of my favorite, like mm, top 3 wrestler growing up. But then the dungeon, I couldn't find anything online about them. And then at that time, Lance opened his school in 2005. So 1 year before I decided to go there in 2006. And the great thing about Lance was that his online presence was very big. He had the website, which he still has, I think, stormwrestling.com. And on that website, well, number one, like stormwrestlingacademy.com was another part of the website, and he explained everything. Basically he
Hmm.
was saying, hey, you come to my school, there's like 3 camps per year, it's a 12-week camp, you start from scratch, and at the end of the camp, again, if you're good enough, you'll be able to work anywhere in the world. So that was perfect for me because again, being from France, I was like, okay, how long am I gonna have to live to learn wrestling? And at that time, so then again, 12 weeks, okay, perfect. I just need to live for 3 months, focus on that 100%, and not that it's going to make everything so much easier, but at least I'll know from the get-go if I'm made for this and if I like this. So that was one of the reasons. Now the second reason I went to Lance Storm School was a very specific um, quote on his website because he had a part for his school that was endorsements, and many famous people from the industry were basically putting him over and his
Hmm.
teaching abilities and his wrestling career. And one that really stood out for me was, I think it was Tommy Dreamer. Yeah, Tommy Dreamer, because at that time or a few years before, he was head of talent relation for WWE, and his endorsements of Lance Storm's again teaching, and because before he opened the school, Lance was head coach of OVW for a few months,
Hmm.
and that's actually what gave him the idea and the envy to open his own school in Calgary because he was home, he didn't have to travel, and it worked very well for many years. So good for him because he's definitely at my time the best coach I could have ever had. So Tommy Dreamer on that way on his website was saying, well, on Lentz's website was saying that basically, again, I remember the quote exactly, which was, I trust Lentz's judgment so much that if he ever tells me that one of his guys is ready, I wouldn't even ask for a picture or a match. I would give him a tryout straight away. Basically, that's what he was saying, more or less.
Hmm.
So when I saw that endorsement, then Jim Ross was putting him over, Paul Heyman was putting him over. So I was like, yo, that's the place I need to go, and I need to go and impress Lance to the best of my abilities. So that
Hmm.
was the mentality. So that's why I enrolled at the beginning of 2006, and then I left France for Calgary in September 2006.
How was training with Lance Storm?
Mm, I can't say it was hard because again I was in such a great physical condition. I was the type of guy, to give you an idea, when 2004 summer 2004 I was actually in bad shape. Like, man, I was working out, but I had tendonitis, I had pain everywhere. And then online I saw an interview of William Regal, which is also why I'm not going to say I felt so close to him, but why I had a good connection with him is that I mentioned that to him a lot. In 2004, I saw an interview by William Regal where he was saying that one of the things that saved his life from all his addiction and stuff was he discovered a training method online, and he bought the book by a guy called Matt Fury, and the training method is called combat conditioning, and it's all based on body weight exercises. So so at that time, same. Look, I had bad knees. I had again like I wasn't in great shape. I had the look, but my body was already almost starting to break down, and I was just 20. So I bought that book, and yo, it changed my whole life because basically that method of training is like Matt Fury explains in the book how he used to be a great amateur wrestler and gymnast, and he thought he was a badass. But then one day in Florida, he met Carl Gotch, and Carl Gotch, even at 70 years old, kicked his ass both in wrestling and physical condition. He told him, "Hey, give me 500 squats." The guy couldn't even do 100. And then he says, "Okay, do a wall chair." You know, when you sit against your back against a wall and
Hmm.
your leg 90 degrees. Like the guy couldn't hold 1 minute, and Karl Gotch could hold 9 minutes in a row. And then he could do a back bridge on his neck and nose to the floor for like 3 minutes. So Matt Fury was explaining in his book when he saw that such a like an old man could be such a great physical condition and whoop his ass. He was like, I gotta train like that guy and I gotta pick his brain. So he stayed with him a few weeks or months, I can't remember, and he registered and he like learned all his training methods, and he wrote a book about that. So basically that book, Combat Conditioning, was based again on body weight exercise, Hindu squats, Hindu push-ups, back bridge, and all that. So I started doing them in summer of 2004. Bro, that gave me the best physical condition ever. I was doing every day. Well, not at first. At first you got to build to it. So at first you start with 25 squats a day, then you go up the next week to 50, then the week after 75 or maybe 100, and in 3 months you can do 500 squats every day,
Hmm.
basically. Again, if you're serious about that. So that's what I did, man. At that time, like and again, I loved wrestling and I really wanted to go to Japan. So man, I was doing every day 500 squats. I would get up at 4 in the morning, do my squats, go work in the summer to save money to go to Lens, and yeah, all the Hindu push-ups, all the back bridge, 3 minutes every day, and the amateur wrestling. So all this to say, I showed up in Lance camp like in top physical condition. I was light. I was about 75 kilos, maybe 80 kilos, which is 180 pounds more or less. But bro, the physical condition was there. So training with Lance wasn't that hard, but it was more. I really wanted to. Well, here's the thing: when you train with Lance, especially when you start wrestling, and I started late. I was 22 when I went there, but on the other end, I was in such a great physical condition that it erased the fact that I went there late, like 22. Because most people now they start when they're 14 or 16,
Hmm.
which is not necessarily good because you're not in good physical condition when you're that young. So
Hmm.
me, I was the other way around. I went there and I could do everything. For example, actually on YouTube, there's a video of me giving Lance my first ever German suplexes. I think you have to type eagle mask German suplex or something like that, because one of my friend that was in camp at that time was filming it and putting it on YouTube at that time. So the video must be like 18 years old, basically, I think. So, and you see my first ever German suplex that I give to Lance, first on a big crash pad. Yo, man, my head is not even touching the ground. Like, it's one of those German back bridge German suplex where we land, and then my back bridge was so good at that time that my head is not even touching the ground. And it was like, wow. So, yeah, so good. So, anyway, so the thing is that when you go there, you see Lance Storm every day. And in a way, you're still a mark, you're still a fan. So
Hmm.
you're like, wow, it's so good, man. And Lance tells us all those stories about backstage, Triple H, Bret Hart. So my feeling was that the hardest part was to accept the fact that I'm only here for 3 months.
Hmm.
After those 3 months, I go back home. I could have stayed in Canada because I had a 1 year visa actually, but yeah, I was planning to go back home and start working in Europe because competition, especially for a French guy, was less hard. I was gonna say because
Hmm.
nobody was gonna have my pedigree and my again my knowledge of wrestling and my physical condition and my look was also because I had abs and I had the body. So the hardest part was not so much the physical part, but accepting that okay, after those 3 months I'm not going to be around Lance anymore, because for those 12 weeks Lance kind of becomes like a spiritual father to you guys, to all
Hmm.
of us guys, because he's like our mentor. So yeah, I was like, okay, I gotta register as much information as I can, and yeah, and be mentally ready to swim on my own, because that's really how it felt. When I did that 12 weeks camp with Lance, it was like, okay, you're around, like we used to call him Papa Lance, but like Mama Beer, and then after those 12 weeks, you're on your own. And that was the hardest part, actually, getting thrown in the mix of things and learning to sink or swim.
After Lance, did you go back home and start working, and did you just stay in that area? And was there a lot? Well, there were a lot of places to work.
So I had my first match in Canada like 2 days before the end of camp, which was awesome too. So because basically, so I was doing so good in training
Hmm.
that they had the Power Zone Wrestling show, PZW show in Lethbridge, Alberta, and one of the guys on the main card got hurt, and he was supposed to wrestle one of Lence's former students from the camp before mine. So Lance was like, he knew the booker, so he basically offered, like he offered the booker for me to take the spot of the injured guy and work with T-Bone, which was the guy from Lance's previous camp that was supposed to work the guy. So that was awesome because, man, my first match, again, November 29th, 2006, was a singles match. Like, I think we were third on the card. And, man, it's like, that was a great experience because already, I lost the match. It doesn't really matter in wrestling. But I was kind, in a way, not getting a push, but already thrown into a great spot because
Hmm.
the other guys from my camp were they did like a tag match, dark match right before the show. So yeah, so that was my first match. Then I did go back to France in December 2006, and then I started basically connecting with guys that I already knew from the business, and in a way, because I was very heavily present online. I had a good presence. I had a blog that I would update daily, basically. Then I had, I think, did I have Facebook? No, not yet. Facebook, I had my first one in 2007. But MySpace, I had MySpace. And I actually have a good story about MySpace. But anyway, so yeah, I had a good presence online. So people knew that there was a French guy called Tom LaRufa training at Lence's school. Because again, I kept updating my blog, and again, like I was gonna say I'm business smart, as in before even going to Lens school, I contacted all the local newspapers and the local TV, like TV news channels, to be like, hey, I'm French, I'm from Nice, from the Riviera. I'm gonna go learn pro wrestling in Canada. You want to do something on me? And yeah, they did articles, they did TV special. Again, all of those are on YouTube. So you see me without my beard, all young
Hmm.
and with hair on top of my head. So so yeah, so people knew about me. So it was not easy, but I I was already booked before even
Hmm.
going back to France, which was good. So what I did, so first off, I told you a funny story about MySpace because then it's all full circle. My goal when I stopped, well, when I finished training with Lance was to go to the LA dojo, New Japan dojo at that time. That was in Los Angeles. Because again, my goal was Japan. My
Hmm.
thinking was that I'm not a big guy. So if I want to make it internationally, I need to get an international career like the Dean Malenkos, the
Hmm.
Benoits, the Guerreros, the Jerichos, to be like, okay, now I can bring attention to me in the US. That was my mentality, right? And because I knew I had the technical and the physical condition for that. Not again, not I'm not comparing myself to Malenko and Jericho and all those guys, but again, that was my goal.
Hmm.
So I wanted immediately after finishing camp with Lance, I wanted to go to the LA dojo in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, which was still affiliated with New Japan at that time.
Hmm.
But guess what? December 2006, I think, New Japan shut down the dojo. So it was like, well, I'm not gonna swear, but FUCK, what do I do now? So at that time, I was on MySpace, and I had in my friends list, I think there was a friends list on MySpace.
Hmm.
I had Fergal Devitt, Finn Balor, because yo, I think he's like 2 years, 2 or 3 years older than me, but we were basically the same age, same body size. He's from Ireland, I'm from France, both from Europe, and at that time he had just I think he was already on the shows, but he had been in Japan for like a few months doing the Pegasus Kid #2 gimmick, and then he switched to, well, Fergal David. So I was like, yo, let's send him a message on MySpace and see if he gets back to me. So I sent him like a very professional and well written message like, hey, Fergal, hey, my name is Thomas. Nice to meet you. I'm currently finishing up training with Lance Storm here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I've been following your career from a few years now. You're really like a role model for me because we're both from Europe, kind of like the same size. I do a lot of amateur wrestling. I love the Japanese style. Would you have any advice about what to do after I finish camp with Lance to potentially try out for New Japan? I'm doing everyday 500 squats. I'm doing back bridge. I'm doing all those push-ups. Like I'm really motivated. And again, he could see my pictures. He could see that I was in shape and stuff, and that I was really in Canada. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens. He got back to me really fast, maybe the same day, and he was like, "Hey Tom, like Fergal is a great guy, man. Finn Balor is like a super guy, and we've been friends ever since he signed with NXT anyway. And he remembered me from that email when he got there in 2014, I think. So yeah, he got back to me and he says, "Hey Tom, thank you for your email. It's very good what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. There's two ways to get to the here to the dojo in Japan in Tokyo. Either you go through the LA dojo in Los Angeles, which was just about to close, or you participate to the annual tryout in Tokyo that they do for their New Japan dojo. So there's a few requirements. I think one of them, so you have to be under 30, I think, which was the case for me. You had to be minimum of 1 meter 80, which is 6 foot, which
Hmm.
sucked because I really wasn't. But I know that Fergal wasn't either, so it's like, maybe I still have the chance. And I think you had to be over 200 pounds also, which is 90 kilos, which I wasn't at the time. But I was like, yo, I might try. So I think, and they were about to have the tryout, like I think a few months after that. So I managed to get the address through a friend that could speak Japanese on the New Japan website. I
Hmm.
got the address of the dojo and I asked Fergal, hey, is that the right address? Again, written in Japanese. And he said, yeah, that's the right one. So I sent my pictures, I sent my CV and stuff. And man, yeah, like I remember that out talking to you because I don't even think about those anymore. But I never got an answer. But one day Fergal was like, yeah, I think in January 2007, like 1 month after end of camp with Lance, he was like, "Hey Tom, just to let you know, I heard them talk about your application the other day at the dojo. Maybe they'll get you to come. Like I would have paid for my flight anyway to try out for New Japan. But yeah, I remember Fergal mentioning to me on MySpace, hey man, I heard them talk about your application. I hope everything works out." So I was like, yeah man, but nothing ever happened. So yeah, but but really quick. So that whole adventure motivated me, but I was gonna do anyway. But motivated me to connect with people in California. So the
Hmm.
thing is, the LA dojo closed, but then they turned it into the Inoki dojo after that, but it
Hmm.
wasn't affiliated with New Japan. But most of the guys from the New Japan dojo in LA, i.e., Rocky Romero, Carl Anderson, and TJ Perkins, for most like for the main guys, they kept working and training under the NWA Pro banner in California, and the guy running it was, and I think still is, well, even though NWA Pro doesn't exist anymore, it's like something else now. David Marquez. Don't know if you know the name.
Hmm.
So there you go. So man, like a few weeks, months after that, probably around March 2007, I got in touch with David Marquez again through MySpace. Explained to him the whole situation. He was like, "Well, hey Tom, thanks for contacting us. Yeah, we can definitely arrange for you a place to stay, a place to train with Rocky Romero, Carl Anderson, T.J. Perkins, and that's it. It'll be I don't remember the time, maybe 500 a month for the place to stay and training unlimited and stuff." So bro, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Let me work a bit again to save money. And then 2007 September, I spent the whole year alternating between the US and Canada, simply because in the US as a tourist you can only stay 90 days.
Hmm.
So I did 3 months in California from September to December 2007. That's where I got to know and train with Rocky Romero, Carl Anderson, TJ Perkins, Jesse Hernandez, also, which I really respect and appreciate. He's like an old school referee from the 80s
Hmm.
in WWF, working for Vince. And so he's got tons of connection, especially in Mexico. Also, Jesse, he has the EWF Empire Wrestling Federation in South California, which is probably like one of the oldest promotion there. I also got to connect with all the PWG guys. Like at that time, Joey Ryan. Who else was there? Like many guys anyway. So like yeah, so 2007 California. Then from January to March 2008, I went back to Calgary to assist Lance in his new training camp, especially because Lance was going to have knee surgery. So I'm like, hey, you want me to come give you a hand training the guys? So he
Hmm.
was like, yeah, sure, come over. And that was great because it gave me more, again, ring time, especially around Lance. I could, again, pick his brain a lot more, especially now with about 1 year and a half experience. And then after those 3 months in Canada, I went back to California for the remainder of the 90-day stuff, which was again probably 3 months. So April, May, June 2007, back in California, working the indies there, and yeah, and training, always trying to get better. And yeah, man, yeah. So I traveled quite a bit at
So,
the beginning of my career.
doing all this, getting all this experience, when did you decide that you were going to pursue WWE?
Yeah. So again, it's a funny question. So basically, what happened was I worked so hard at trying to go to Japan
Hmm.
that I became good enough for WWE. That's what happened. So the thing is that, like again, my goal was always like at first, of course, it may be in my head somewhere I wanted to go to WWE, but it wasn't like I gotta go there. It was really
Hmm.
like, man, I want to go to New Japan. I want to go to New Japan. Again, I was doing all the squats and the crazy bridge, and again, there's tons of video of me doing that on YouTube. And so yeah, so I became so good physically than that. So two things happened. Again, number one, I worked so hard that I became very good. Then, um, again, I won't go into all the details because then we're gonna spend a 4 hour. We're gonna have a 4 hour podcast. But basically, when I went back to France in 2008, and then I started working for basically the best and biggest promotion in France at that time, which was Wrestling Stars. And bro, I was working like twice, two shows every weekend, maybe sometimes three, two matches a night, the singles match or the tag match, and then the final 6-man tag match or 8-man tag match. That was the format for that company. So most of the time I was getting 4, if not 6 matches per week for like a full 4 year before going to WWE in 2012. So that from 2008 to 2012, I was working every weekend, 2 to 3 shows, 2 matches a night. Great experience, and that's what got me really good in the ring.
Hmm.
Because then I could work heel, I could work face, I could work a crowd, I could focus on the in-ring stuff, and it was a great experience. But in the middle of this experience in France, and again, I was working every week, so I didn't need to travel. I had a week job, and then on the weekend I would wrestle. Great time. Uh, in the middle of that 4 year period working for WS, Lance again sends me an email, I think in the summer of 2010, and he says, "Hey Tom, I'm working on that." No, Frenchie. He calls me Frenchie. Everybody calls me Frenchie in the US. He says, "Hey Frenchie, I'm working on setting up a project with a production company here in Calgary. It would be for a documentary TV reality show about advanced training, like training advanced guys in wrestling." So I've shown them your pictures. They love the look. So do you think you would you be interested? So I'm asking basically, oh, say when is it? So first off, when is it? And very important for me because it's in Calgary.
Hmm.
Are we getting paid or what? So so he was I think in June 2010 that he was talking to me about that. So he was telling me, yeah, the if we do it, the filming will be at the end of the year, so probably December 2010. And well, they don't have a lot of money, so they won't pay for flights or stuff. But I'll make sure that WWE watches the thing. So as soon as he said that, I'm like, I'm in, because the thing is, yeah, that's the thing. Because at that time, I tried and tried like for 4 years, Japan, Japan, Japan. Nothing was coming through. And yo, inside story, man. Like again, and I swear it's true, and I have no reason to lie because, especially because nothing came out of that. But I did ask Lance many times, "Hey Lance, do you have any contact from New Japan? Look, man, I'm doing all the squats. I'm really working hard. I'm in good physical condition. Would you have any contact?" So I managed to get for him Tiger Hattori's email back in 2008, 2009, I think. And Tiger Hattori was at that time, I think he retired now, the foreign talent connection in New Japan. He was a referee, but he
Hmm.
could speak English. So any foreigner that wanted to go to New Japan needed to go through Tiger Hattori. So I got his email and I said, "Hey Lance, can you please send him an email for me?" Because the thing is that it's more weight to have Lance Storm contacting him. "Hey, I got a French guy in France. He's very good. You should look at him." Than me being like, "Hey, Mr. Hattori, hello, my name is Tom LaRufa. I was trained by Lance Storm. Please give me a chance."
Hmm.
So I asked Lance to do that. He did send the email. Lance is a great guy. He's always been great. So he sends the email, no news for like 4 months. And then one day, out of the blue, in May, again, I'm good with dates, in May 2009, Lance sends me an email and he says, "Hey, Frenchie, just to let you know, Tiger Hattori called me back. He was on tour, so whatever. He couldn't call me before, whatever." So, long story, long story short, what he said was that, how did he say it? He says they might have a spot for you in the dojo. They just need to figure out first if whether WWE signs Haku's kid or not. Because if they don't sign him, they'll give the spot to him. So I was like, wow, I was really getting close, man.
Hmm.
So all I needed was, in a way, for WWE not to sign Haku's son, which was Tamatonga.
Hmm.
But WWE didn't sign him. So Tamatonga went to dojo, and I was like, well, again, good for him, great for him. But I was like, fuck, I could have been there, man. So yeah, that's again a funny story. Which again, and it's so funny because again, I saw Tama Tonga back in Lyon, like what 2 months ago, and yeah, like we've always gotten along great. I never told him that story, but yeah, man. So yeah, I got very close to that. But anyway, so 2010, Lance tells me about that TV reality show which ended up being World of Hurt. I don't know if you ever saw that
Hmm.
or heard of it. Yeah, so World of Hurt. So yeah, he tells me I'll make sure WWE watches that show. So I'm like, okay, I'm in, no worries. So at that time, as soon as I said that, I was like, okay, how am I gonna look on the show? How am I not so much how I'm gonna act, but most of all, how am I gonna look on the show? Simply because in Europe and in France at that time, I was doing, and I'm still doing anyway, a Spartan character, a Greek warrior character, which you see behind in that painting and
Hmm.
in the other ones too. So I was doing that character, but to me, that character is awesome for family type crowd and like live events. But on a TV product, it's hard to pull off
Hmm.
because what am I gonna say in a promo? Hey, I'm a descendant of the Spartan. My grandparents were from Greece and Italy, so I'm a ancient warrior. And you go really quick
Hmm.
in the same circle, and there's nowhere to go after that. So I was like, okay, I got to be the French guy, especially because if WWE sees that, well, there's a lot more potential in again being French
Hmm.
than being a Spartan. So that was immediately I was like, okay, how am I going to look? So I bought like a leather beret. I was working on the sunglasses. I got in great shape, and here comes the shooting of the filming of the show. So that show was really what put me on the map to get noticed by WWE. Simply because, again, if I do that show today, I'd be canceled for sure, number one. And because, man, like when I went on that show, basically what happened was that the first day of shooting, the producer, the director, like the main director was like, okay, like we have a big like table meeting with all the cast member. Actually, Emma was on the show too. Emma was on the show. Taya Valkyrie was on the show. Um, Tyler Breeze, which I think you had on your show,
Hmm.
was supposed to be on the show too, but because we were all trained by Lance anyway. But Tyler Breeze was supposed to be on the show, but he got signed by WWE like the month before. I think he went down to the open tryout in Tampa and he got the job. So he was like, "Yo, technically, I don't want to get hurt. I don't need to do the show to Lance." So and Lance was like, "Yeah, don't worry, I totally understand." But yeah, so Breeze was supposed, like Matt was supposed to be on the show. Taya Valkyrie was on the show. Emma was on the show. Like Lance had many guys signed
Hmm.
throughout his wrestling school. So we do the table first, like first day of filming before everything starts. So the guy tells us, so guys, okay, we're gonna do like a documentary and stuff, but also please keep in mind that it's TV reality. We would love to have some drama. So when he said that, again, at that time I had no idea what I was gonna do, and I had no idea how I was gonna act, like act or be on camera. So when he says that, like it's almost like a light bulb came up in my head, and I was like, okay, I'll give you some drama. So we start filming the vignettes where we get changed in the locker room. We introduce ourselves. So I'm like, so I start and I'm like, yo, that's my moment to shine. That's my moment to. And again, I no, it wasn't planned whatsoever, but that's how I am. If you put like a red light in front of me, bro, I bring it. It's like
Hmm.
turning the volume up to the max. So I started undressing, getting in my trunks because also that I didn't want to be in like workout clothes. I wanted to have boots. I wanted to have my wrestling trunks. I wanted to look like a pro, and I was in great shape too. So I wanted to show the body. So I put my trunks. Then I had a really tight white tank top, a wife beater, I think they call it. Well, I don't know why they call it that way anyway, but whatever. So and then as I start undressing, I'm like, so yeah, they call me the French stallion because, well, I'm in great shape. Women love me, and I do. And then the guy cut me off. He said, "Hey, cut, cut, cut." So, and then when they say cut, I go back to being myself, and I'm like, wait, did I do something wrong? It's like, no, man, we love that, but we need to put a microphone on you because we want that sound. So I'm like, okay. When he said that, I got it. I was like, okay, bro, don't worry, I'm gonna give you stuff. So it just went crescendo from there. Like I started by just freaking like being like again like just being like, yeah, I'm a hot throb, like girls love me, I'm the stallion, I've got abs, I've got everything that you need to have in the right places at the right size, shit like that. And then when it started, like, so basically what they did was that they each day they were filming one episode because we were 10 guys and the filming was like 3 weeks. So for the first week and a half, we were each day was focused on one guy. So they said, "Hey, everybody, we're gonna start with Frenchie because he gets it. He knows what we want." I'm like, "Okay." So we do the first day immediately, bro. I walk into the room and the training room, and I'm like talking shit to everybody. I'm like, "Yo, you're fat. Well, I'm not gonna say that because if I say what I said on that show today, like your video is canceled and it's freaking like demonetized. It's freaking whatever." But anyway, but it was a character, so it wasn't for real, right? So anyway, yeah. So I start talking shit to everybody. I go see the girls. I'm like the most like how could you explain, like the most annoying guy. Like I'm always like checking their ass and stuff. Like anyway, it was great TV. So yeah, we filmed my episode first, and then they film all the others. So anyway, that show we finished filming at the end of 2000, yeah, end of 2010, and then it was supposed to air in Canada like around the spring, like I think April or May 2011. And when it airs, Lance, who's good friend with Brian Alvarez,
Hmm.
have him watch each episode. And Brian, bless him, loved me on the show, man. Like that was again 2011. Brian Alvarez and Vinny, they had the show together at that time,
Hmm.
bro. Every time there was a new episode, bro, they put me over huge on the dirt sheets. Like they were like that guy. Again, I remember Brian saying once, and it gave me still today, it gives me chills when he said, that guy talking about the Stallion, that guy is going to main event WrestleMania within 4 years. And again, when he said that, I was like, wow, bro, I gotta be doing something right. So, man, so it got over big on the dirt sheets, like online. Yeah, I got a good response for that because it was very entertaining. And it's available on YouTube, actually. If you put like Tom LaRufa 10, the number 10, because that was the 10th episode. Like they filmed my episode first, but it was the last of the season because it was like the the climax. Actually, even better at that at the end of the shoot, they're like, "Yo, Frenchie, we need something else for your episode." After we shot everything, they're like, "Yo, we need something else, man." And basically, we came up with the idea of basically me not fighting with Lance, but being put back in my place by Lance. And in the episode, that's what happens. Like it's like we do a drill, and I had to say something that kind of pissed Lance off, which is something I would never do in real life. But for the show, I was like, "Yo, that's my character. The French Island will do that." So we do a spot. I do like my springboard crossbody on Lance. One, two, kick out. Hey, okay, good job, Frenchie. Cool. Then I come out of the ring and like, man, fuck that. That was too easy. I'm not learning shit here. That stuff I do it every time on the indies in front of 500 like 500 2,000 people. Like, yo, I'm not learning anything here. And then Lance is like, yo, what did you say? I'm like, well, I'll try to tone it down. I'm like, well, no, I didn't learn anything new in that spot. It's like basics for me. So then he calls me back in the ring, and then he fucking stretches me, and he calls for spots and ducks everything, and I look like a complete asshole. And it's so great because on that show, it's not even I learned. I really discovered what it is to be a heel, which is right after Lance freaking stretched me for real. Like, fuck, Lance is good when he goes to it. So the crew called me and it's like, yo, come quick to do an interview while we're still hot about that. So they're like, yo, what's your reaction? And then as a pure heel, instead of again like putting Lance over himself, I just always complain. I'm like, yo, that wasn't necessary. You shouldn't have done this. Like, you should have taken me aside, tell me, hey, Frenchie, don't say that. He wanted to put himself over in front of everybody by making me look bad. Fuck him, basically.
Hmm.
So yeah, but anyway, that was great. So that show got over so big on the internet that at that time, again, like I went back to France and working for WS, that company. We were bringing a lot of guys from the UK, and one of them told me one weekend, "Hey, Drew McDonald would like to contact you. Like, can he do that, or give me your email address so I give it to him?" Drew McDonald was William Regal's best friend, or one of his best friends, someone that they worked so many times. Like, he was one of those guys like Regal, Finlay, Robbie Brookside, like old school
Hmm.
English guys, English workers that was actually the European scout for WWE. So when that British guy told me, "Hey, Drew wants to get in touch with you," Drew McDonald wants to get in touch with you. Well, I was like, yeah, sure, of course. So again, that was like June, maybe 2011. So I sent him an email. Hey, sir, nice to meet you. Whatever. That that guy told me that you wanted to get in touch with me. Here I am. What can I do to help you? So Drew got back to me and he says, hey, yeah, hey Tom, thanks for the email. Would you like to try out for WWE? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. And then so he says, yeah, but so okay, great. So I'll put you on the list for the next tryout, which will be probably in October, like in November. So send me an email in October and we'll set that up. Great. So that's it. So man, well, again, it was probably June 2011. October, I was gonna have to send an email to Drew McDonald to set up that tryout, and that's it. November 2011, I went to Liverpool, Raw, SmackDown, because they didn't have the 3 days tryout like they
Hmm.
do have now. Like, you go there as an extra, you have a match, you have a promo, and if they like you, they offer you a deal. So that's what happened for me. And so again, how did I get to WWE? Again, being so good, like I said, trying to get to Japan, almost getting there. Thank you, Tamatonga. And no, bless you, brother. But and then that World of Hurt show, I think, got the attention of WWE. So they must have told. I think nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me to my face that's what happened. But again, like with the dates and everything happening, I guess someone from the office in the US. Well, because Lance told me also that on the show I was Edge Edge's favorite character on the show, so I knew people in WWE saw
Hmm.
the show. But the thing is, like, again, nobody ever told me that it was really for that. That Drew McDonald wanted to get in touch with me. But that's it. Either way, I got the tryout in 2011, and they liked me, and I did the match on SmackDown with Big Show, and yeah, they offered me a deal. And then I went to Tampa in July 2012, and then the nightmare began.
So, how long after that tryout did you get your developmental deal? And other people that I've talked to, that was not an easy process when you're coming from overseas. It's not a quick process.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, easy. It's easy if you're, I was gonna say, a good person. It can be difficult if you have like a troubles with the law, or you've been to prison or shit like that.
Mhm.
So to me, it's like I had basically. So let me remember the order of things. So Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis, I don't know if you're allowed to say his name now. He's the one that offered me the deal. It was in February, I think. There was like a three months period where they said, "Yeah, we're really interested, but we're not into hiring for now, but we'll keep you in mind." So in February 2012, yeah, or January, one of the two. Um, someone from the office says, "Hey, John Laurinaitis would like to call you. Can you do it on my French phone?" Which again, we had to set up the time difference and
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah, so he called me. He's on the phone. He said, "Well, I'm not gonna do his voice. Everybody does his voice." But basically, he says, "Hey Tom." Well, I'm gonna do the voice. "Hey Tom, so we're very interested in bringing you in. We would like to sign you. Like, he gives me the weekly paycheck, the amount of it. Then he says, hey, if you say, well, first off, he says the money, and I say, yeah, of course, sir, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm okay with that amount, which was good actually. Actually, more than what the Americans were making at that time. Actually, they were also going to give me a little bonus to move
Mhm.
overseas, which just helped cover the visa anyway because I had to pay for my work visa. Then so he says, okay, so once I said yes to the amount he offered me, he says, well, you're gonna have to move to Florida. Are you cool with that? Yes, of course, sir. So okay, so now what we're gonna do is that you're gonna have the pre-screening phase, which basically they check all your background. You give them all the info. I guess they check if you haven't done like, I don't know, adult movies or prison or stuff like that, I guess. So pre-screening, once the pre-screening process is done, they get back to you, and then you have the medical tests. So now they do it in Orlando, I think, at the PC. But back in my days, they flew me into Pittsburgh for 2 days actually. So we did everything: the EKG, the impact test, which is the thing for your brain to measure that you're not concussed and stuff. We did all the testing. So yeah, so I went to Pittsburgh on a Wednesday and went back on a Friday to France to do the wrestling weekend. So once the medical is good, then they actually send you your paper contract that you have to sign physically and send back to them via FedEx. So that's what happened. So that was, we were around probably April at that time. April, yeah. Then once this is done and I signed the contract, we start the whole visa process
Mhm.
thing to get the visa. And basically, so I got my visa officially in July, mid July 2012. So it was like a 6 month process.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I get my visa, they book my plane ticket to bring me to Tampa.
Were you at the tail end of FCW going into NXT?
Mm, kind of, not really, because I got there in July 2012, and the PC opened in. Oh, actually, wait. You mean FCW as in the brand or the whole training facility?
The training facility.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, no, I stayed a solid year in Tampa because they opened the PC on, I think, on July 1st. I think July 1st, 2013. So again, it was like about, yeah, 10, 11 months that I was in Tampa at the old FCW training building.
So, what were your initial thoughts of what the WWE developmental system was on
Well,
during that
yeah.
FCW days?
So when I was there, Bill DeMott was the head coach. The coaches were Norman Smiley, Joey Mercury, Ricky Steamboat, Terry Taylor. And I think that's it. I think no, Billy Gunn wasn't there yet. So, and on the first day I went there was also Vader was a guest coach for a week. So, and Dusty, of course, Byron Saxon also was like the assistant coach for Dusty. So I was gonna say the great thing. Well, yeah, great in a way. My story in developmental is unlike anyone's. Like, there might have been a few, that had what happened to me on their first day. But again, man, it's a crazy one. So it's almost like one of those things where I actually did pitch to WWE at one point. Well, not after they released me to do a documentary on that because, man, long story short, bro, I go there. Our first training day, I think, is on July 29th. I think, again, dates, I don't know why for me, but they stuck in my head. So anyway, it's a Monday. I go there. We start training. Now, what happened? The problem is that I've before moving to Tampa, I took like a 3 or 4 months hiatus from wrestling. I
Hmm.
was like, yo, I want to get there in the best shape possible. I want to give my body some good rest. And again, that's it. Because again, when you wrestling every weekend, man, you get beat up. Like you get pain in your knees, neck, back, elbows, whatever. So I was like, yo, I told the French booker, hey man, thank you for everything, but just gonna quit. Now that I'm sure I got the visa, I signed the contract. Once I signed the contract and it was official and we were just waiting for the visa, I was like, yo, I'm stopping everything. No more bumps, no more wrestling. I want to be in top shape for FCW, WWE, NXT. But the problem is I was dumb and young and I didn't have the experience is that it's a very bad thing to completely stop wrestling and then resume, get back in the ring with no like transition.
Hmm.
So the problem is first day of training in FCW, I've been off the ring for 4 months and I start training and Bill DeMott is here. Terry Taylor is here, which I did talk to when he was in TNA. Actually, I did send some of my stuff in 2009, and he remembered me. He said, "Oh yeah, you're that Leonidas guy." I'm like, "Yes, sir, that was me," but he didn't sign me. But anyway, when I was in France anyway, I would have needed the visa. But so everybody's watching. Vader is in the ring too, and he uses me to show some stuff. So I'm like, yo, man, I'm giving 500%.
Hmm.
2 hours into that first workout, I blow out my ACL. First day, you know what they say, you only have a good first, like a, whatever, one chance to make a good first impression. Man, first day of training, I completely, my knee is like exploding. Like, I don't know, on a stupid thing, actually, a tackle. Like, a Bill is in the ring and we do tackles, and then boom, at one point, I hyperextend my knee and I feel something give in it. It doesn't hurt, but I'm like, whoa, that didn't feel good. So they sent me outside to the trainer, Brian Duncan, who's now on the road. It was great to see him again in Lyon last month or in May. And yeah, he checks the knees like, feels loose. So they sent me to do the MRI. Actually, I go do an MRI with Enzo Amore because at that time Enzo had an injury also. I don't remember where, but we went together to do the MRI a few days after because the crazy thing, bro, is that again, that day of training, I landed in Tampa on Wednesday. I was already in touch with Emma because she was signed. So she put me in touch with the apartment complex that she was living at. So I already had an apartment. I had like a foot on the ground. And again, I had enough contacts. And Matt, Tyler Breeze was also in the same apartment complex. So and it was like 5 minutes away from FCW. So it was great. In 5 minutes, actually almost walking distance. Like walking might have been maybe 10 minutes. So anyway, everything was great. On Wednesday, I land. I move into the apartment like on Thursday or Friday. And then Monday is the first day of training. Monday, boom, my ACL is gone. So I'm on crutches. I don't even have a car. I don't even have most of this. I don't even have my social security. It's like, again, it's like the beginning of my developmental career is like a nightmare. So yeah, so go get the MRI. Enzo's driving because he has a car. He's from New York, so he had his car. So Enzo's again great guy. I have a great relationship with Enzo. So he get there. Of course, MRI, ACL completely torn. Both meniscus are already torn. So I'm like, what the f, man, fuck. So anyway, that was the end of July, and I was scheduled to get the surgery mid-August. Now the problem was with that happening. Long story short, bro, I had heat with everybody, and when I say everybody, that meant all the coaches and maybe half of the roster, because it's like, who the heck is that guy? The guy comes, he's like a midget He's French, and he gets hurt on the first day. He tears the ACL. That guy's a joke. So that was like basically the feeling I got. So luckily, some guys knew me, like Matt, like Tyler Breeze, Emma. Some guys knew me, so they could talk for me, be like, no, that guy's good. He just got wasn't lucky. But something I actually discovered a few years or months after was that some of the coaches, and again, I understand, no, I don't critique whatsoever, but some of them they actually thought that I showed up injured, that I showed up with a fucked up ACL. Which again, no,
Hmm.
I'm like, I see you shaking your head, and I understand, but bro, that's possible.
Hmm.
Some could have done that. It's like, yo, my ACL is effed. So let me go to WWE. They'll pay for the surgery and that. But for me, it wasn't the case, man. Like, bro, I was like super healthy when I got there. I just didn't have any ring time. That was my mistake. And again, I was going way too hard. That's why actually they stopped. Actually, at one point they stopped having guys start straight away. They had them like, especially at the PC, because some guys, yeah, did get hurt on their very first few days. So what they started doing once they opened the PC was that everybody that gets signed and starts like in NXT for the first month, all they do is go to the gym. Like they
Hmm.
go to the gym at the PC and they just watch the classes. And then after a while, they just go in and just do the warm up, and then they do the full workouts after maybe 6 weeks. And that's smart
Hmm.
because then it also allows you to see the guys how they act and their physical condition and stuff, and get they acclimated to the to the WWE way of training. But yeah, but I didn't get that. So yeah, so I tore my ACL. I get hit with all the coaches, and that's it. So get the surgery. The surgery was hard, man, especially leaving solo. I was leaving with another French guy at that time, not my tag team partner, another one that got signed before, but only lasted 6 months. And yeah, it was hard, but still to this day, I was always telling myself, hey, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I don't know how much stronger I'm going to be after that, but man, I'm going to be super strong. So, yeah. So the hardest part for for my very first few months in NXT, FCW Tampa, was winning over the coaches.
Hmm.
Like it was like, okay, I'm effed. I can't show you what I can do in the ring, but somehow, some way, I gotta save my job, and I'm gonna show you why you signed me. And that's how. Well, I couldn't train, so while the others were training, I was doing rehab on my leg, and then, but every promo days, like what we call promo days or communication skills, which were on the Wednesday, I think, in Tampa, they had three classes. They had beginners, intermediate, and then main event TV talent. Dusty would usually sit only for sure for the TV guys, Dusty Rhodes, or for the like maybe the intermediate and the TV guys, but beginners they wouldn't be there. So I was required to stay at the beginners, which of course made sense. So I think at first I wasn't even allowed to cut the promo, but then after a few months and once I got off the crutches, I was starting to walk again and work out and stuff like work out in the gym. I was like, hey, can I cut promos, please? Because not gonna bump.
Hmm.
So, and then, bro, since they didn't even care, they're like, yeah, go ahead. Nobody would watch anyway. So, but the thing is that I took it very seriously. Like I cut promos, and every week, well, of course, I wasn't gonna bother Dusty because again, I'm hurt, so they're never gonna do anything with me, not even on shows, and even less on TV. But I would always go and ask Byron Saxton, and that's why I credit Byron for maybe 60% of all the promo talent that I have because Byron Byron is an angel. Like in this business, it's very rare to know someone that nobody has a bad thing to say about, and Byron Saxon was one of those guys. I can tell you, you'll never find, or if that happens, maybe that's the end of the world, but you'll never find anyone that has something bad to say about Byron Saxton. So I would ask Byron, hey man, is there any way you could sit down with me and give me like feedback about my promos? Because Byron was the coach for the beginners promo classes. So, and he was at, yeah, of course, Sylvester for sure. So, yeah, Sylvester Lefort, by the way, is like one name that I put on a list of 10 names that I give them because they ask, like, that's like a side note. When I was there, they would ask the talent that gets signed, "Hey, give us a list of 10 names that you want to use," and then I guess they check legal, copyright, and stuff, and also how it sounds. At first, I actually did give them like 10 Greek names because I wanted to do the Spartan character. Because money wise, I was like, "Yo, that's a big money making." But then they said, no, give us another list after a few days. I'm like, okay, no, I gave them French names. And actually, Sylvester Lefort was the last one on the list because I'm like, yo, they're never going to give me the Sylvester first name. Like, it's too much. And then when Bill Demott one day comes out of the office and he's like, hey, you, that name, you, that name, Frenchie, Sylvester Lefort. I'm like, wow, okay, that's my name. Great. That's a great name anyway. So so Byron was always like, yeah, sure, Sylvester, come, and we wait. Byron would call me Silver Star because when I say Sylvester in French with Sylvester, it sounds like Silver Star in English. But anyway, he would always sit down with me, review promos, and man, again, I got so good at promos that's how I slowly started to win them over. I would ask Bill, "Hey, can I stay for all classes of promos?" Like I wasn't allowed to be physically present
Hmm.
in the room with Dusty and the TV guys like the Seth Rollins, the Roman Reigns, the Bray Wyatts, the all those guys like the Charlotte. No, actually Charlotte wasn't TV at the time. Summer Rae was, I think Paige was. So anyway, I wasn't allowed to be physically present, but then they had a small camera and small TV that would show what was happening in the other room. So I would sit by that TV. I was the only one doing that because, of course, when you're healthy and you train hard and you work hard, well, the first thing you want to do once you're done is go home
Hmm.
and rest. But I would stay, I would watch all those promos and I would listen to the feedback. Bill DeMott would see that. And I would remember at first he wouldn't sell me, but then after a few weeks, he would be like sometimes just tap me on the shoulder, like, hey, good stuff, man. Serious. So anyway, that's how again, not only did I become so good at promos that I also started slowly to win over the coaches, Norman, Bill, Joey, and yeah, man, the more promos I was cutting, the better my health also was getting with the knee. Brought me to beginning of 2013 where, and well, here's the thing. I really tried to learn as much as I could about character development in developmental. Some guys they didn't give a shit, man. They
Hmm.
just came here, they took the bumps, they did the workouts, they thought that it was an athletic competition of who can do the highest drop kick, and they would go home. And they thought that they were gonna be on TV like that. To me, it was like, especially being hurt, I was like, yo, I want to learn about character development. I want to learn what makes someone like John Cena be the main event guy, not in the eyes of the fan, but in the eyes of the office, in the eyes of the writers, in the eyes of Vince. Like what makes your character work in WWE. So I remember one day one of the main writers of the road on the road that used to be in FCW NXT came down and gave us a speech, like a lecture about character development. And I was taking notes, man. I was taking notes all the time. Again, one, of course, because it makes you be seen in a good light by the coaches. But then on the other end, man, I got two notebooks full of notes that it's always good because you think you're going to remember everything, but no, you won't. So yeah, all those notebooks they help me so much when I read them again because I see stuff that I'm like, wow, I completely forgot about that, but it makes sense. So anyway, that guy, that writer from the road that came and gave us a speech about character development, basically told us what you need is, how did he say that? What's your message? That's it. What's your message? What's your character's message? And he gave us example like John Cena. His message is never give up.
Hmm.
And then he gave us a few others like Undertaker, rest in peace, and all that, right? So it's kind of like a gimmick, but also what's the vibe of your character. So at that point, I was like, "Yo, I'm hurt. So what can I do?" And I'm hurt, and I'm from Nice, French Riviera, Monaco, the sun, all that. So I'm like, okay, what kind of vibe can I put together to match my background? So that's when I came up with the manager. Well, I thought it wasn't supposed to be a manager; it was just like a character. So, but character about all about making money, because Dusty would always tell us, watch movies. You want to work on characters? Watch movies. So I watched a ton of movies in when I was in Tampa. So I watched some of them that I really loved and especially gave me inspiration for character was Ocean 11,
Hmm.
because in that movie, I don't know if it's Ocean 11 or Ocean 12, there's a French character in there. The guy has the sunglasses, he's all tan, he's from, again, the casinos, he's got that jet set lifestyle. And I'm like, yo, that's gold. Let's work on that. So I started, again, buying the tiger shirts, the gold chains. I would be all the time in the sun to be really tan, sunglasses, all that, abs, really oily, really shiny. And I started working on that character, the money making jet setter from the French Riviera. They loved it. Well, okay, they didn't love it. They didn't show me, but I could tell it was working because I could tell I had the look. On the microphone, I was really getting more and more comfortable, and also because with the accent alone is heat. Like,
Hmm.
you put me on the microphone anywhere in the US, I'll get heat no matter what. But because I've got personality, but also because if I really force the French accent, yo, there is no way anyone will cheer for me if I speak French like that, or English with a French accent, with forcing the R's and all that. So I knew I had something. At one point, at that point, they had a few guys that they really liked, but they couldn't talk, or they something was missing. And one day, and the funny thing is that was the week when Lance was a guest coach in the FCW. They're like, hey Frenchie, like, hey, well, Sly, whatever, stay at the next promo class. We want to try something. Like, Dusty wants to try something. So, and I'm in full gear, like a tiger shirt, gold chain, and all that. So what they did was that they put me, and I didn't say anything. I just stood in the background with Garrett Dillon and Jake Carter, Vader's son.
Hmm.
Okay, they loved both of those. Like, both those guys. Garrett Dillon was a Chris Christopherson son,
Hmm.
the country legend who was in Blade, the movie. So Jody and Jake, they were like, they were a tag team, but something was missing. When they added me to the mix, everything clicked. It was like I was like the missing link, or the glue that glued the whole thing together. Because you have that country redneck guy on one side in Garrett Dillon, and then the good-looking, like, playboy, that's Jake Carter. And then in the middle you got the freaking small French guy, obnoxious, like. And like the whole package was like so out of this world that it actually worked. So on the same day or the day after, they had the live event in Tampa at the FCW arena, and they tried it. They're like, okay, Frenchie, you go in the ring, you got a promo, but as soon as you're done, you go outside of the ring, you stay ringside, you don't move. We don't want you to get hurt. Because at that time I was still rehabbing. I had the big knee brace under my pants, but that was it. So that's what we did, and bro, immediately it worked. Like, the crowd, like, just with the look anyway, man. I had the sunglasses, I had the hair tied back, I had the abs, the gold chains. Like, yo, I looked like a superstar anyway. It's not hard, man. When you invest in your body
Hmm.
and you invest in your gear, you look like a superstar. So it worked great, and that's it. From that point on, not only was I on every live event, but also Dusty, again, bless him, was, I want the French guy to always have a promo on every show that he's on. Thank you, sir.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was like March or May? No, March 2013. I was on every show, but I was still hurt, which is
Hmm.
crazy because you never saw that. You never saw that. Like, in those days. In those days, you were not on the shows, and sometimes you wouldn't even travel to the shows if you were hurt, not cleared, and I was there. Like, I was doing things like cutting promos. I wasn't doing anything physical, just promos, and it worked. 2 months later, in May, I was on TV. I think Jake got hurt. Vader's son, Jake Carter, was hurt or was released. One of the two. No, not released because he was at the PC later. So I think he got hurt. So in the meantime, Scott Dawson got signed. He got
Hmm.
signed in October 2012. So it was like 6 months later. So when Jake Carter got hurt, they're like, okay, what do we do with Garrett Dillon? Well, let's put him in a tag team with Scott because Scott, being a great worker, is going to be able to guide Jody that had less experience in the ring. And me managing them was great. And again, that's what got me to start on TV. So yeah, man, yeah. So the beginning was like, nah, tough. Let's put it that way. But then I was gonna say it all worked out in the end. Well, I wish I never had the surgery on my knee, but that's what
Mhm.
it is, man. So I made the most out of it.
So when did they start focusing on you as a wrestler and not
When I
just a
got cleared,
mouthpiece?
yeah, that was hard. The transition was super hard, man, because when I got cleared, I got cleared the week they opened the PC. So basically, I was almost out for 1 full year, which was crazy. But the problem was the surgery they did, the first surgery, because then it retore 2 years later, still in WWE. The first surgery they did on the ACL on my knee was like wasn't great. Like, man, they use like a cadaver, which is basically the ligament of a dead person. So I think my knee never accepted
Hmm.
the ligament, and it was always bloated. It was always painful. It was like weird. So, but yeah, but I still got cleared. But it took a full year almost, and I got cleared with the opening of the PC. But then the problem was that I became so good as a manager that when I got cleared, I had a talk with Bill DeMott. I don't know if you want to talk about Bill. I have no problem talking about Bill because I know where I stand about him. And I got honestly mostly good things to say about him in my case. But I had a talk with Bill right after they opened the PC, so August 2013, where he basically told me, long story short, again, because sorry, bro, I talk a lot. It's already what 1 hour that we're talking. He told me, okay, do you like managing? Do you like being a manager? And I was like trapped here because
Hmm.
the thing is that I was on TV, bro. I was getting over. I had done at that time a dark segment with Mark Henry at Full Sail where he gave me the world's strongest slam because I was cleared, so I could take physicality. Man, the dark segment worked awesome. Not only for me, I felt at home working with Mark, like cutting a promo. The crowd loved it. The crowd loved to hate me.
Hmm.
Norman Smiley once told me that Triple H said when I was doing the managing thing at Full Sail, the way it worked, the way my gimmick worked at that time as a manager was that Byron Saxton or the ring announcer would be like, "Hey, and the following match is scheduled for 1 fall," and then I would cut him or her off, and I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Basically in French, shut your mouth. Let me do the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, je m'appelle Sylvester Lefort, and I would introduce the guy I was managing, either Dawson, Garrett, Dillon, and Dawson, then just Dawson because Garrett got released, and then Dawson and Rusev. So basically, so Triple H once said in Gorilla, apparently Norman told me that afterwards, the week after, about me, that guy doesn't need to do anything, he gets booed. Yeah, that's called having it. That's called having charisma. That's called also being French, but in the US. But yeah, so that, again, so it was working well. So when Bill tells me, "Hey, do you like being a manager?" Basically, he was telling me that because I think I'm not sure, but what I got from the discussion was that they were actually thinking of putting me on the road, maybe
Hmm.
with Rusev. That was again like August, September 2013, and the problem is two things. Number one, well, at the PC, there was another French guy that got signed, Marcus Louis, which is the guy that I ended up teaming with. 2 months before he got signed, Regal came to me at Full Sail, and again, we were still in Tampa, but just doing the TVs in Orlando. And Mr. Regal comes to me and he says, "Hey, I just want to let you know there's another French guy coming in when they open the PC. You two guys as a team would be like." So he said that, and that was like 2 months before I got cleared. So I'm like, okay, interesting. So the problem when Bill asked me that, "Hey, do you like being a manager?" Like, number one, I wanted to work in the ring and show them, "Hey, here's what I can do," because I knew I could work, and I can work. So
Hmm.
just I know I can. I didn't. With my size, you don't get signed just by being French. You sign because also you're good in the ring, and you're intense, and you can make it credible. So I wanted to work. And then on the other end, we were already starting to work on the French tag team with Marcus. So when Bill asked me that, I was like, Bill, look, I'm a pro. I'll do whatever you want me to do, no problem. And thank you for everything you give me. But if you ask me, my heart is in the ring. And I think by saying that, I actually shot myself in the foot because, well, Dawson was already hurt. He hurt his knee a few days or weeks before that. So I had just Rusev left with me. Next TV tapings, they put Rusev with Lana. So again, some people say they already had plans for Rusev and Lana together. Some people would say, well, it's because I told Bill, hey, I'd rather work. Because also Bill in that discussion told me, hey, when I told him that, so like, you do realize that with that friend, that manager character, you're so much closer to get on the road than most of the guys here at the PC. And even when he said that again, I was young and I didn't
Hmm.
really was wasn't really familiar with the whole developmental process. I was only here for 1 year, so like yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, Bill, I still want to wrestle. Yo, I have that discussion today, or I would have had that discussion 2 years later. I would have been like, yo, Bill, I love managing,
Hmm.
and it's true anyway because the thing I got, long story short, but the thing I got with that manager experience is that, man, you connect so much more on a deeper level with the crowd
Hmm.
by talking on the mic. Like working is great, being in the ring is great, but when you've got that microphone in your hand and you're good on the mic, you're good and you're comfortable and you've got that it factor, man, the connection you build with the crowd is so different. And it, like that's it, you just connect with your words. And again, it's a deeper connection than just taking bombs and running the ropes and doing clotheslines and body slams.
Did it feel like they kept that same momentum with you once you made that decision? You wanted to get back in the ring and then they paired you up?
Well, I don't think so. It's a tough one to say because basically, even when I was managing, let's face it, most of the time my guys were losing. Number
Hmm.
one, so when I made the transition, here's the thing. And let me, I was gonna say defend Bill DeMott. I don't think many people will do that, but here's the thing. Let's talk about Bill DeMott, right? And you understand why I say that. Uh, well, let me ask you a question first. I would assume that most people that talk about him or what you heard or know about him would be pretty negative, right?
Hmm.
Well, here's the thing. Was Bill old school? Yes. Was he a hard ass? Yes. Was he sometimes hard to deal with? Yes. But here's the thing. I've been, again, doing amateur wrestling. I've been doing boxing. I've been doing sports, hard sports, where sometimes the coaches are freaking hard on you. Like I remember my one of my amateur wrestling coach, which was like taught me how to do stand into a neck bridge like on your own, like not even using your hand. Like that guy would sometimes just kick me out of the workout just because I wasn't doing good. He's like, go home. I'm I'm tired of you. Go home. So when you're training with coaches like that, in my opinion, it's hard emotionally, mentally, but man, you progress so much faster
Hmm.
because you don't want to disappoint them. And again, I understand. So Bill, in a way, to me, I always took Bill like that. Whatever Bill was saying or doing, and as long as he wasn't physically assaulting me, and he never did. It's not because he comes and slaps you on the back or something. Yo, it's wrestling. Like what the hell? If you're going to complain about that, don't take any bumps in the ring because bump hurt, right?
Hmm.
Now, now the thing is, uh, so every time Bill was hard or acting weird, I'm like, yo, he's just testing me. He's just testing me. He's just testing me to see if I'm gonna complain or whine or cry. Yo, just take it because you know what they say. One of the saying that actually I think Triple H said to Enzo, and Enzo told me was that when you get on the road, you're gonna be served shit sandwiches every day, and you're gonna have to learn how to love it.
Hmm.
So it's like I always took it as a test with Bill. Now, where I'm going to say, in my opinion and in my case, good things about Bill is that whenever I went to talk one on one with him in his office, I always felt like not only he listened, he respected it, and my career got somewhere. So Why do I say that? Because so that you ask me, okay, if I felt like the transition, like they took me seriously or not. Here's the thing. So once they took Lana off, they took Rusev off me to put him with Lana. I was left with nobody to manage because Dawson was hurt and Rusev was with Lana now, and we had the match with Rusev on TV and stuff. So I was cleared. I was training every day, but on TV, I was like, okay, what do I do next? So we went together to talk to Bill with Marcus because we were already doing every week promos as the French tag team. We were always like, it's not even as a work, we were friends, we became best friends in NXT, but we were both French. So bro, we would speak French all the time, in the locker room, sometimes to piss everybody off, but just because that's what you do, man. You see two Latinos, they're gonna speak Spanish with them, so two French guys, we speak French. It's just natural. We didn't, it wasn't just to get heat, man, but whatever. And it was funny because sometimes we knew, like, again, we weren't doing it to piss people off, but it's so funny because sometimes we would look at some guys speak French, talk about random shit like, hey, what are we gonna eat for lunch, or what are you doing after that? But then by intently looking at the same guy, the guy would think we were talking shit about him. That was fun shit. It was just a rib. But yeah, so we went together to talk to Bill. That was probably September 2013. So we went to have a meeting and like, hey, Bill, coach, we've been working on the French tag team. I'm not managing anyone anymore on TV. Marcus is not doing anything. Is there any chance, please, we can try the French tag team on some live events, just to show you what we can do? Because we're really confident we can do something with that. Bill, again, to his credit, was like, okay, guys, I write it down. Thank you for your input. Thanks, Bill. We walked off. It took 3 months, but we got our chance. So
Mm.
again, it took a long time. It took 3 more months of keep training hard, showing up every day, not getting hurt, cutting promos every week, great promos. Uh, but finally, in December, they gave us a chance on live event, and man, immediately, like we knew we had something, which again is not hard. You got two French guys with a big French flags, matching ring gear. They speak French and English. They got charisma. They can work in the ring because Marcus was also very experienced in the ring. Marcus Marcus Louis trained in Ireland with Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Wade Barrett. They had together a group in Europe back in 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006. That was called, I think, the Foreign Legion or something. So they were one of those guys, right? So anyway, we do that first match in Tampa in December 2013. But it was so funny because it was a three-way. The French guys, the Ascension, and another team. Forgot which one it was. Maybe Jason Jordan was in the team, I think, and Sean Spears. I think maybe Sean Spears and Jason Jordan. So the three-way. So what it is, what we come up first. We sing the French anthem, get booed like crazy. Then the other two team comes out. It's a three-way elimination match, and we get eliminated in like 1 minute. So by the Ascension, bro, man, when we got eliminated, the crowd booed, like as in, come on, now we wanted to see more of them. Simply because, again, like we had the matching gear with the shiny vest, we had the French flag, the promo went great. The people were like, damn, they're already eliminated. Come on. So, and I remember walking backstage, Joey Mercury said, because again, it was like putting us over, but like reluctantly, he's like, okay, what? How did he say it? He said, you, you know it's bad when the most entertaining act on the show are the two French guys. So he's so we're like, well, thanks, I guess. But that was it. So yeah, so we had something good with the team, but yeah, it took time because then Marcus got hurt. He tore his calf, I think, during a PC show, and so he pushed and pushed and pushed the debut of the French tag team on TV, and I think we only debuted in May, I think. But I got to do Access as a singles guy because Marcus was hurt, so I got to go to Access for WrestleMania 30, which was a great experience. So, and also quick story. So then, like I said, Bill, it took time for us to start working, but with my hard work and my dedication and my work ethic, I won the coaches over. And the first ever NXT pay-per-view on the network was NXT Arrival in January 2014, I think. Yeah, 14. Yeah, 14 because the PC opened in July 2013. So in January 2014, there's NXT Arrival. Can't remember the card, but I remember the day before. I know I'm not going to be on the card. I'm cleared. I'm wrestling. I'm training. I'm doing the French tag team. But Marcus is hurt, and we haven't debuted on TV as a tag team. I've been off TV for like 4 months. So I know I'm not doing anything on the show. So the day before, I go to the gym at like 9 p.m., get a quick arm pump just to look good in my shirt the following day. And when I'm done working out, I get a message from one of the refs and Sticks. So Sticks sends me a text message, and he says, "Hey Frenchie, you know you're working tomorrow." And I'm like, "Yo, fuck off, man. No, it's not funny, man." Uh, and then he says, "No, no, I swear, man, you're in the dark match with Mason Ryan. I saw the card." So I'm like, "No, are you for real?" It's like, "Yeah, I swear." I'm like, wow. So basically, man, again, like I said, talking to Bill, showing that I was working hard. The guy put me in the dark match with Mason Ryan for the first ever NXT pay-per-view, however you want to call it, NXT Arrival on the network. So again, wasn't televised, but that's it. That's another thing that I can say I've done. And that's why, again, going back to Bill, is like, I know some people can't stand him or can't stand his personality or what they've done to him, but for me, I always felt like, hey, Bill, like again, it was hard with me for sure, but I always took it as a test of seeing if I was hard enough for that. And whenever I talked to him professionally, again, my career always ended up going somewhere. So that's my take on Bill Demott.
So how was it after you did the pay-per-view? How long was your partner out of action for?
A few weeks, but then basically, okay, the protocol when I was there was that if you're out for more than 3 weeks, you have to wait a full month before you're back on live events. So because of his calf muscle tear, he was out for like 4 weeks. So we knew that we were off the shows for like 2 months. That's why also I went to talk to Bill and I told Marcus, I'm like, yo, brother, I'm going to do that. I need to. So I went to talk to Bill as soon as we knew the extent of the injury of his calf there. I told Bill, hey, coach, please, I'm getting momentum here. I'm trying to find. I'm no, no. I'm starting to find my footing and my groove and my vibe in the ring. With Marcus out for at least 2 months, can I please keep working singles match because I don't want to lose all that momentum? Again, okay, okay, Sly, I'll take note of it. Next weekend of live events, there are 3 shows. All 3 shows I was on with Adam Rose. Adam Rose was doing like he was starting his new gimmick. I think it might have been his first match on live event with the party thing gimmick, right? And I, then again, that was a test. They throw me to Adam Rose, which was a TV guy, main event guy. It's like basically, I'm sure was the instruction was, hey, test him out, tell us how he is. The matches went fine. Like they weren't great, but again, they went fine because that might have been my first singles match in WWE actually on live events. But the matches went fine, safe, good heat, man. And then Adam Rose was super happy with the matches, and that was it. After that, I got booked at Access. When I got that email, man, I was so happy. And yeah, so we started that got the ball rolling. But then again, I never. Well, I had a few, I think, squash matches on TV, singles as a
Hmm.
singles guy against Mojo, Colin Cassidy, uh, Mason Ryan also, and then one day out of nowhere in May we debuted as a tag team against Kalisto, making his debut. Kalisto made his WWE TV debut against us, the Legionnaires, and he was tagging with El Local, which was Ricardo Rodriguez.
How long did you guys team up after that?
So that was May, for 4 months maybe, because once we got on TV, they immediately put us in a program with Enzo and Cass, because Enzo and Cass were. Here's the thing, like the funny thing, because I always used to say that. Well, not comparing myself to them now, but man, I debuted on TV before guys like Tyler Breeze, Sasha Banks, Bailey, Charlotte, because all those great talents, I saw them like debut in developmental. I'll tell you a story which I find cute, but also so deep that it gives me and everybody that hears that story, I hope, so much more respect for them. But Sasha Banks and Bailey might have cried for the first 2 weeks maybe of promo days in front of Dusty Rhodes. They had just gotten to FCW in October 2012, I think. And again, I was watching everybody's promos. So they're in the beginners promo. And Dusty is here because new talent came in. They came together, Sasha, Bailey, Scott Dawson, Angelo Dawkins, and that's it, I think. Well, yeah, I think that's it. So they came all together. So for the first promo, Dusty was here. Well, Sasha Banks, and Bailey, they couldn't even talk. They were so stressed out with everybody watching them. Dusty, Byron, the coaches watching them. That for the first week or two, they actually cried in front of Dusty. And to me, it's like looking back, it's like to see where they're at now. It's like, yo, that's freaking monumental respect for them. But again, yeah, that's one of those things where again you really experience once you're inside the whole developmental system. But so yeah, so but okay, so I was on TV for a while, um, but then as the tag team, so it was 1 year later. So yeah, we stayed as a team for like 4 months because what happened? So we had the program with Enzo and Cass because that's it. Enzo and Cass started coming up on TV because Enzo has explained in other previous interviews how he started on TV and he was getting over with the crowds. So they saw us as the perfect team for them to get over. So it was fine for us because we were on TV. So we started doing the angle about like the whole, I don't know, one day they come to me on TV and they're like, yo, at the end of the match of Enzo, you interfere and you shave his beard with some hair clippers. And I'm like, okay, yo, I'll do it. I don't really know why, but that was to bring about the hair versus hair match. Now, here's the thing: we knew or felt that in the office, I honestly don't know by who. We have ideas, but we don't know why or who. But some people didn't want us as a team because they felt that I was way more valuable for WWE as a manager because they had so many giants that couldn't talk and I could bump, I could work like I was like a bumping manager, which is rare in wrestling. And I actually could work, so I understand ring psychology. When I was managing, bro, man, I was sometimes sweating just as much as a guy in the ring because I was giving so much life to the whole thing, like jumping up and down and running around the ring and stuff. So I was giving life to the thing. And whenever they would start calling spots in the ring, I would be like making as much noise to bring attention on me so they could like I would work with the guys because then I'm a worker. Um, but yeah, so some guys in the office didn't want us as a team, so they were like, we could tell and feel that there were pressure. Don't put them on TV. Don't push them. Don't give them this. Don't give them that. So and then they also wanted Marcus as a singles guy. So that's how it felt. So they brought about the NXT takeover match with me and Enzo, a hair versus hair match, where I lost, but then I ran away like a Frenchman, and then Marcus got his head shaven instead, and then it brought the heel turn for him. Now what happened after that was that well basically they split the team after that because Marcus at one point lost it and beat me down blaming me for everything that happened, which again, storyline was what's true. And bro, as soon as that happened and Marcus beat me down, I retore my ACL in training. So that was it. I was out for 7, 8 months. That was at the end of 2014. And that was it. So that's how the tag team ended.
How so when you came back, did they have any plans on what they wanted? Did they shift the focus where all right, we'd like you to manage?
Yeah, that well at that time. So two things happened. Number one, in between, I think yeah, when I was hurt, when I was still rehabbing the second knee surgery, Bill DeMott got fired and
Hmm.
replaced with Matt Bloom. So So now I had to deal with Matt Bloom when it came to decision about well, my career and NXT, right? And when I got cleared in May 2015, as soon as I got cleared, Matt had a talk with me, and it's like, "Yo, Sly, now we want you to be a manager because we don't want you to get hurt again." Like yeah, at that point they knew that it wasn't intentional. I wasn't getting hurt on purpose. I was on TV. Everything was going great. Actually, inside story was that I had been told at that time that, well, I got hurt, so he messed everything up. But after the breakup with Marcus, they wanted to put me in a program with Baron Corbin because at that time Baron had just started on TV, and they wanted me to basically. The idea was that after Marcus beat me down, I wanted to hire some people to beat up Marcus and help me get my revenge. So I would bug everybody until I started bugging more and more and more and more Baron. And Baron Kirby would have been mad and pissed, and I would have been wrestling him on Takeover at the next Takeover, and it would have been a squash match, I'm sure. But still, I would have been on the next Takeover with Baron Corbin, just getting heat. That would have been great anyway. But yeah, but then I got hurt, and that never happened. But so yeah, so at that point they knew I wasn't getting hurt on purpose. And so yeah, so but then when I got cleared in May 2015, Matt Bloom told me, yeah, we want you to be a manager. But then it was up to me to find who to manage. So it took a while, man. I did so many promos. Uh, that's the thing. That staying 4 years in developmental and every week having to cut a promo in front of Dusty Rhodes, William Regal, Michael Cole, all those high placed guys in the office, man. Every week you try to cut the best promo of your life, especially
Hmm.
if you're not on TV, because your mentality, or so it should be, is that if I do a great promo this week, I might be on TV at the next TV tapings. So that was my mentality for 4 years. Because even when I was on TV, because the problem was that in developmental, some guys would be like, "Man, you're on TV, so why do you work so hard?" I'm like, "Yo, go f yourself, man. I want to make it to the top, man. So no, even if I'm on TV, I want to always get better and better and better." But yeah, so man, I did a ton of promos with many different guys, and basically that's what it is. Like you throw like shit at the wall and you see what sticks. What stuck was, I don't know if we did it together or someone asked us to do it, but around end of the summer of 2015, I started being associated with Billy Kay. One of the Iconics.
Hmm.
She was singles wrestler at the time, and they really liked her, but I think they felt like something was missing with her, so they put me with her, and that clicked straight away because there was something there. So I can't even explain the vibe that we had. I think it was more like she started working on that opera, like an opera mask, like dark black character, and I was kind of like her. That'd be, I don't even know what it was. That's the thing. Like it wasn't a love relationship. It wasn't like, yeah, like we were working on it. The look was great, the dynamic was great, but we didn't have the backstory yet. So we worked on it for a few weeks and months, and they loved it, man. On live events, bro, on live events, I got to. It's funny because since I was managing Billy Kay, at one point they were like, "Well, hey, next month you're gonna train with the Divas," which again was great. Not gonna complain, man. Especially because, well, besides being very eye pleasing, it's like, yo, the Divas, they weren't training as physically hard as the guys, simply because, again, makes sense. Their body is not as solid as a 300-pound former football player.
Hmm.
So Sarah Del Rey, who was their coach, Sarah Amato, was like very conscious with that, and they weren't taking a lot of bombs. They were doing technical stuff, and it was great because then I wasn't taking many bombs. Yeah, so I was training with the Divas, and that's it. On live events, I would be managing Billy Kay, and she worked with girls like Nia Jax, Azuka, and it was great because then there would always be a spot in the match where the divas, like facing Billy, would bump me. So I got kicked by Asuka. I got someone dropped by Nia Jax. It was great, man. It was, and it was great because here's the thing. Like I respect maybe more women than men when it
Hmm.
comes to professional wrestling because it's so hard on the body. So for a girl to do that, yo, respect, and do it at a high level. But and the girl felt that because yo, so many guys would have been like, yeah, fuck that, I'm not gonna bump for a girl. I'm like, yo, I don't give a shit. Like on the
Hmm.
contrary, that gets heat. That gets heat. So it's so funny because I have that. I don't have the video, but when Nia Jax gave me the Samoan drop, she did it twice, I think. I oversold it like Shawn Michaels. Like I took the bump, got out, took another bump, and then roll outside. But if you're talented when you do that, you can do it in a credible way. It's not just overselling just to make it look ridiculous. It's overselling first to pop the boys in the back, but to also add, how they say, add some, add some stink on it, and
Hmm.
just make it look even more devastating than just taking a bump and laying flat. No, you take a bump, get up, bump again, and roll out. So yeah, and they all popped because that's the thing. Like instead of just bumping once for a girl, I bumped twice. So yeah, it was fun. Very good memories. But then the problem is, so it worked great. I think at that point also what happened was that I kept asking for a raise because I was there for like 4 years. I never got one. So I was like, yo, after a while I got tired of it. Like because I was doing everything I was asked. I was doing it very good, better than most of the guys that were making more money than me. That's what pissed me off was that some guys they were making like $200 more than me per week. Yo, at the end of the year, that's like you can buy a car with that kind of money.
Hmm.
So I kept asking for a raise, kept asking, and I think I was gonna say maybe that's what pissed them off after a while because they released me beginning of 2016, like basically 1 week after we had the dark match at Full Sail with Billy Kay. And again, having great feedback, but they released me. And yeah, I was gonna say it sucked, but yes and no because then I got to go to TNA and or Impact at that time, and it got to a point where after 4 years there and not getting any younger, 2 knee surgeries, it's like, yo guys,
Hmm.
please do something with me because I'm not getting younger and yeah, do something with me. I'll do something with us, the French guys, because they never did anything with Marcus either. So it's like you got two French guys. It's not like it'd be hard to book. We're French, so just have us speak French on TV. And especially at that time, it'd be like anything to get on TV. But you know, it's I was gonna say it's professional wrestling. It's WWE. It's not wrestling. It's way more complicated than just wrestling. So yeah.
So how's life been after WWE? You're still working all over the place. And was Backlash the first time you've been back to WWE since your release?
Um, I think so. Yeah. Well, you know, in an official capacity, because whenever I go back to Florida as a tourist, most of the time, I always reconnect with people from WWE. So I'm always in the flow of things. I went once backstage at a live event they had in the south of France, which was great because it was in 2019, I think, and I reconnected with a lot of people. But then the official capacity was yeah being an extra on Backlash and SmackDown. But just besides the whole WWE and indie thing, I did I did work and I was signed for to Impact for like a year, and that was night and day, man. Again, not going into details of everything I've done there, but the whole Impact experience was just awesome because basically in WWE and especially in developmental, at least the level I was at, was that you're given a script and do the script. So you have to be an actor. You have to be able to bring out something out of you that connects with whatever the writer has for you or whatever the office wants you to portray, which is hard if you're not good or if you're not
Hmm.
an actor or if you don't have personality or if you're shy or stuff like that. TNA, man, again, long story short, because I've already talked about that in a few interviews, maybe not in English, but in French for sure, was that the one of the best advice I've ever been given in Impact was, or in wrestling in my career, was what Pat Kinney, which was Simon Diamond and not Simon Dean, because I did the podcast with Rene Dupre a few weeks ago, and I made a mistake. I said that Pat Kinney was Simon Dean. No, no, he was Simon Diamond in ECW. So Simon, Pat, I don't know if you're watching this, but sorry, man, it wasn't on purpose. I just my brain was like foggy at that evening with Rene. But anyway, so Pat Kinney was the producer of our tryout match as a French tag team at Impact. So our tryout match was a 18-minute match on NXT on Impact one night only, which was their monthly small
Hmm.
pay-per-view. So it's like, yo, our tryout is a TV match. Wow, 18 minutes. Whoa! And in those 18 minutes, we had 8-minute promo with the tag team facing us, the Bromance, which was Robbie E and Jesse G, managed by one of the girls they had, and the French guys. And that was our tryout match. So before the match, I asked Pat, hey, Simon Diamond in ECW, hey, Pat, like, sir, like, what do you want from us? Because at that time, it's like 1 month after being released by NXT. So we're coming off four years of weekly, daily, almost training, being able to do anything they need in the ring and knowing that how we're going to work is going to be better than most of their roster because in Impact they didn't have the performance center. They didn't have coach that would yell at them if they were just grabbing a headlock in the heat. We had to always be on our toes and be creative and work and like work and respect the ring psychology and tell a story, which some guys in Impact or anywhere else weren't really paying attention to. They were just doing spots and wrestling. So we knew that, man, okay, we have really something good here, and they didn't have a lot of tag teams either, so we had really a good chance. But I asked Pat, what do you want from us? Do you want like a comedy French guy, serious French guy? Like, tell us what you want from us. And he told me the best thing I've one of the best things I've ever heard in wrestling, but at that time the best was that consider those 18 minutes like your job interview. Show us why we should sign you. So when he said that, bro, I was like, no problem. Exactly like World of Earth when the light bulb came up was like, okay, man, well, I'm okay. Like, and with Marcus, at that time we were the tag team. Like we were like, okay, man, we're gonna do our thing. We're gonna again be as good as we can be, and that's it. And the match was very good. The promo was awesome. Actually, like that promo and that match at that time was the best representation of everything I could do in the ring. I had like a 2.5 minute, maybe 3 minutes promo in the ring. I spoke for the whole promo, most of it. Marcus just said one or two sentences at the end because they wanted the dynamic of the small guy with the loud mouth and the top big guy, like more sinister and more silent, which was awesome for me because that's more mic time for me. Like straight away, we got the heat. The crowd started chanting "USA, USA," boring, boring. We got the heat. The babyface comes out. They get over big. We do the match. We work the arm, and it was a great match. And yeah, as soon as we walk backstage, everybody hugs us and it's like, "Hey, welcome to the team, guys." And that's it. We signed with TNA, or Impact again at that time, and we worked every TV shows. We worked with the Hardy Boys. With Al Snow was our manager. Man, I learned so much in Impact. That was a great time, also, especially because basically we were doing our thing. Like Impact was less like uh, encadré in French. It was less rigid as NXT. Like you
Hmm.
had a lot more freedom. They told you, okay, we want that across, say that, but they wouldn't tell you how to say it. It's like, yo,
Hmm.
make sure you say that message, but say it however you want. Yeah, so we were able to use all of our catchphrases that we had worked on in NXT. Then the ring stuff, I had single smash, I had tag matches. It was a great time. Impact was awesome. And then we weren't bumping every day. I wasn't getting hurt. We were just showing up to TV. You don't need to wear a suit or anything. You just some guys would show up. That's what was awesome too. Like some guys would show up with like the first our tryout in Impact were like suited up, like a tie and all that, like with brooms up our derrière, and we're like, oh my god, we have to look good. Everybody's in jeans, shorts, tank tops. They don't give a crap. They're like, wow, okay. Actually, it's almost like we got hit by being dressed so well. some guys were like, I remember Drew Galloway, who remembered Marcus from the days in Ireland, and he remembered me from seeing him a few times in NXT or on the road. He would look at us and like, what the heck are you doing, guys, like that? We don't do that here, like being dressed like that on the first day, like where we were supposed to try out. So I'm like, okay, no problem. The next day, we just show up maybe with a shirt or like a nice t-shirt. And then, like, once we got signed, man, I would go to the gym and go straight to TV, all sweaty and stuff. Like, man, it was a great time. Impact was awesome. Like, nothing bad to say about that.
If you had if you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Depends. Are they American or outside of the US?
You choose.
Okay, outside of the US, first off, learn how to speak English. Number
Hmm.
one, that's the main thing because if you don't speak English, like you'll never like make it in like in professional wrestling. Even if it's not just WWE, English. When I started learning and bumping 20 years ago, the guy I was bumping with, which again, this pretty decent name in the on the French scene, old school guy, always told me English is the international language for wrestling. Whether again, like you're French and you speak with a Mexican guy, a Japanese guy, an American guy, an Italian guy. Yo, I've had experiences in wrestling, especially in Europe, where I'm French and one of my best friends is Italian and we speak English. So it's like that's it. You know, English is the international language for wrestling. So first off, learn English, and then whether it's French or American, my honest opinion would be number one: if you're too young to start bumping, and you shouldn't bump until you're 18 because your body is not fully developed. So go do some gymnastics, go do some amateur wrestling, go do some the gym, go easy until you're 18. But if you do gymnastics and amateur wrestling, you'll have a great physical condition and a great body if you're serious with that. And wrestling will give you the instinct of being in a match and understanding the psychology of it. Gymnastics will give you the great physical condition that if you want to or if you like that style can do all the high fly BS. And uh, take if you're also want to work on that and want to put all the chances on your side, take some acting classes simply because that'll get you used to learning a text, learning a promo, and playing it to the best of your abilities. There's so many guys, and that's why whenever I do seminars, I do a lot of seminars, especially in France. I coach many guys. I don't have a wrestling school, but I do basically a seminar one a month, and I always make sure we do at least one or two promos because again that was my thing and it still is. But it's very important because a promo it's like a match. Yo, if you don't believe in what you say, and when I say believe, it's not just saying it and acting like you believe it. You have to believe and live what you say. It's exactly the same as in a match. If you don't live what you do in the ring, it's like there's no way the crowd is going to believe it too. So yeah, so great physical condition, learn English, take acting classes, and then if you want to get into professional wrestling, first step would be to learn and go to a great coach. So right now there's a few schools, luckily, unlike my time, where like go to a school where the coach has done what you want to do in wrestling, and number two, has the connections to get you somewhere if you're really good. So to me, especially now, everybody has a wrestling school. So
Hmm.
I would always go, well, first off, flatbacks with Breeze and Sean Spears, simply because Matt is a very good friend. He was training with Lance. I've been to their school many times, and I love their way of training. It's only 8 week camps, and it's not being an ad for flatbacks, but yeah, Matt, like Tyler Breeze school is cool. I'm sure, I guess Booker T still has a school, right? So
Hmm.
like go to Booker T school because if Booker T sees you and likes you, yo, he's announcer on NXT. What else do you want? The Dudley school is a good one if it's still open. I think Seth Rollins has a school. That's it. You know, like go train with someone that is doing what you want to do. And if your goal is to go to WWE or Japan, well, go train with someone who's in WWE or in Japan. Simply put, there's also the AEW school with Billy Gunn and Goldust, like the Nightmare Factory. That's it. So many there's so many places nowadays that it's like wow, like it's really not hard. What's hard is being good enough and ready to kick ass when you start training. So for this, it's all on you, pal.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Right now, mostly Instagram, well, Facebook a bit, but who still uses Facebook anyway? So Instagram, X, Twitter, which is very easy. It's at Tom LaRufa, and I post most of my wrestling stuff now. It's mainly just wrestling, painting, also as you see behind, and yeah, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter,
Well, I just
X.
want to I just want to say thank you for taking a little bit of time out today to talk about your career. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir.
Hey, well, thanks, Brian. Thanks to guys like you. Well, actually, the way you do your podcast and the subject you trade, the developmental aspect of it is very good because then I don't have to repeat myself. Like focusing on the developmental side of things is very good because that gives fans and people another view on the business. So,
Hmm.
brother, keep doing what you're doing also, and thank you
Thank,
to you.
thank you. If I can ever do anything, please feel free to reach out.
Sure, I will, man. Thank you, and thank you to all the listeners.